So we talked about APIs, fetching data, JSON. We talked a little bit about async await, async and await. And so now we're going to incorporate all of this into our ongoing React project. So I said before the break that there's a new addition to this version of the new site, and that's, so I'm at the top level of my project right now, right? So this is everything in my new site 3 folder. At this level, there's a folder called API. This has everything that's serving up our JSON. We don't need to do anything with this. We just need to know that it's working and that it's operating on localhost 3001. Cool? So we're going to ignore that for now. So now I'm going to go into my source folder, which is the bulk of my React project, right? Most of my files are in my source folder. I don't want you to get confused because there is another folder called API. This is nested in the source, and it's called API because this is where we're going to store all our functions that make the API calls, okay? So in here, there should already be a file and a test file stubbed out for you. So let's take a look at the file first. You can see we're going to write 3 main functions that fetch different collections of data from the backend or from the API for us. We're going to write run that takes in an ID and then fetches an article based on that ID. We saw that with the to-dos, right, where I was adding the ID on the end. We did that with Django. We were getting stuff by ID. We're going to be able to search for stuff by section. So these articles have, I wish I could bring up so we can actually see like what these articles look like. What did I say? 3001, here we go. /API/articles. And so each article has a section attached to it, right? So we'll be able to retrieve all of them by section. And then this one is going to fetch all articles. It's also going to take in some filters, but we're not going to incorporate those today. We'll come back and look at that a different time, all right? Or maybe we'll, just time depending. But so get one article, get all the articles for a section, get every single article. Cool, that's our goal. We're going to use the tests that are already written for us to kind of help us make sure that we're writing these in the way that the app wants us to. So I can run just these article API tests by doing npm test and then saying articles API. And that's just going to run these tests for me. And we should fail all of them. So we can just start up at the top and look at the first one. And this is fetch article by ID, right? Cannot read property then of undefined. So I mean, we haven't written this, so it's giving us an error, right? So let's come up here and let's look at how we're going to write this first one, fetch article by ID. We're not even going to put these into our React. We're just going to make sure these functions work, and we're going to know they work because they're going to pass the test. And just so you know, what they're doing is exactly what we did earlier, right? We're going to make some fetch requests. First, I need to, instead of writing the URL over and over again, I usually just put it in a variable up here. And we said it was, whatever the hell this is. Cool, and then I just want to make sure that, like, if I do /1, and it explodes, oh, because I'm not running a server. Cool, that's going to give me the first one. Let's see, blah, 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 blah. Cool. So if I make a GET request to /articles/ some article ID that's going to get passed into this function, that should give me the article I want. So we're going to say return. We have to return this. I'll show you why in a minute. Fetch to the URL, or actually fetch URL / article ID. So does everybody see what's happening here? We're just using interpolation. This is going to be the URL. The article ID will be passed into the function, right? So we'll get that as a parameter.
Is the API server that we have set up top, is that set so that the URLs are like that?
Yeah, oh, that's a good question. Like, what do our endpoints look like? Let me pull this over. This is in the curriculum. So let's see. It's going to talk about it up here. So we're going to deal with this because we can send some query parameters, and we'll do that in one of these. But right, if we see down here, API/article/article ID is going to be an endpoint. Okay, /articles is everything. But that's a really good question. And what these endpoints look like and what they return is going to be something that you end up like. This is a discussion and an ongoing design decision either between you and your team, or if you're on the front end team, you will talk to the back end team about like, I want to be able to hit this API and get this data back, right? And you'll discuss what these endpoints look like. But this is a very common pattern, so you'll see it a lot. Okay, cool. So I'm going to make the fetch request there. I'm just going to use then, but you can refactor these to use await if you want. I'm going to say then. I'm just doing this because this I've done so many times. So that's going to give me that response. I'm going to take the response and call that .json method on it. And then I'm going to take that JSON and I'm just going to return it. So if I have a fat arrow function, it's only one line, I don't have to write return. It automatically returns. So again, more confusion with these fat arrow functions, but you'll see it, so I might as well start introducing it. So this is automatically going to return this. This will automatically return this. In order for the entire function to return the result of all this, I need to put a return up here, right? So the fetch will run, then the then will wait, then the then will run. When this first then is done, the second then will run. It will finally spit out the JSON, and then we'll return that whole thing, which will just be the JSON. Cool? So this function should work now. Let's come back down here and run our tests again. And hold on, let me kill this. I can't read any of this. What happened here? Did I delete something? Why is this here?
No, I got one Christina.
What the hell is that doing there?
Do those dots may go up directly?
Yeah, but hold on. I don't even know why this is here.
Oh yeah, well, I see.
Yeah, what the hell? Okay, I don't know why that was there. I'm really confused. Okay, let's scroll up. So we no longer see the articles by ID because it looks like we passed that test. My God, every time I click this, it runs them again. So then the next one, let's see, we have fetch articles by section. Cool, so we can move on. Clear on this one? Good. All right, so fetch articles by section is going to look really similar. So I'm going to copy this. And all that's really going to change is the URL. So the way that this backend is set up, I can go to /articles. Oh my God, Zoom died? Everything is going terrible. Oops.
That's why you got
Is John on a Zoom
He's
call?
like messing with Christina.
I think we're going into your computer. We're not just typing stuff at the top.
I don't even technically go to the Zoom aid yet.
I wonder how much of this we missed now.